Okay. Welcome to the September 10th meeting of the Brattleboro Planning Commission. I'll call this meeting to order. This will be the meeting at which we hopefully approve some minor changes to the town plan and give it to the select board. The first order of business is to approve minutes from 3 meetings. We've not gone over minutes for the last few because they were public hearings and we wanted to devote as much time as we could to the public. So, do any of my fellow commissioners have any comments on those minutes?
Do you want to do them separately, each one individually?
Probably, yeah. Am I to guess that you have comments on each individual one?
I don't
think we should do them individually.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start with the 13th. Any comments on the 13th, August 13th minutes? Okay. Anybody
So
on
I motion to approve the minutes from August 13th.
Okay.
I'll second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Now August 22nd, 2012. Any comments on those minutes?
Oh, doing.
That was the informational meeting?
Yep.
Yes.
Hearing none, I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve them. Someone on.
I think Caroline is thinking about it.
Okay. No need to rush.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Now August 27th, 2012.
This was our infamous firehouse meeting?
No, that was the 22nd, wasn't it?
Oh,
22nd, yes. 27th is back here.
27th was our infamous Brattleboro town officers meeting.
So the first... What's the calendar? Oh, we don't have August anymore. So August 13th and the 22nd were the 2 informational meetings?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a little confused here.
27th was a public hearing.
Right.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
They were all very similar, but
Yeah.
so
much.
having resolved that, Caroline, do you want to take a look, or does anybody else have any comments on the minutes?
No, I'm going to just trust that we got it, because reading through the pink pages and all that, the chart, I think you got most of it when I read through all that. So I move that we approve the minutes
I'll second.
of the public hearing on August 27th.
Okay, Liz seconds. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Passes 5-0. Announcements. Anybody got any? No announcements.
Oh, I went to the meeting of the Connecticut River Joint whatever committee for Wantasticus, and one of the main things that we'll be studying is the re-permitting of 5 dams on the Connecticut River that are used for hydroelectric power, and it'll take several years.
Yes. Are you going to go on any of the tours of the dams?
Probably.
Would you, did you put your name down to go to the one in Northfield?
I don't think I remember.
Could you get us
they
those
asked.
dates? Maybe some of the rest of us. I don't know if it's possible
Sure.
for other people to go, but be interesting, I think.
Just to remind you that the Planning Commission has no party status to the proceedings, which means you can go and look, but that's pretty much
that's
the
all
end
right. I'm one of those
of it. Gorkas?
So
go and
they're-
look persons.
They're for applications. That's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and I am the interim chairman of the group because there's a distinct amount of apathy.
Whoa.
So how do you become intern?
Because I said, well,
You see how it
they need more members, like members from Walpole, members from Putney, And when they get more members,
We could do that. We have an arrangement.
yeah.
You are bad. I like it.
then maybe they'll have a larger pool with which to extract a permanent chairman.
Well, thank you for standing up and being the interim and being so involved. We appreciate it. And so do those members from Putney and Walpole.
That's right.
They just don't know it yet.
That's right.
Okay, any other announcements? Okay. Public comment. We have a member of the public with us tonight. Is there any comment from the public?
Michael Bosworth. I don't have any comment, but just I assume this is not a public hearing, but the process will be sort of explained before we get to the meat of it and how the strategies, the process. Okay, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. So now we'll move to our discussion of the proposed town plan. You should all have a spreadsheet, or I guess is this a table? A matrix.
Right.
A matrix of,
Fancy word.
yeah.
I want to say thank you, Sue, for, I'm assuming that was you doing all that. Great. Very well done.
This indicates, the matrix indicates, it's a summary of the changes that were suggested over both the informational meetings and the public hearing. And the goal here is to go through these in a somewhat timely fashion. And I think that there is a general consensus that the PUD issue is maybe our biggest discussion thing, so we want to get the low-hanging fruits first and not expend all of our energy on PUDs and then just kind of forget about everybody else's comments. So this is in an order of priority, starting at 1, and
It is?
It's not in priority order.
It's not a priority.
I'm sorry, excuse me. We are going to go through this starting at 1 and go down through it. I'm sorry. That was not what I meant to say. And
The last item is PUD, so.
the last one is PUDs. And there is some reasoning behind that. And basically, we'll go down through each one, and
Do you want to take a sort of a pulse reading from each of us as to the strategy as we go through?
well, I think basically
Because each one will be a little different.
I'd like to go through each strategy, find out if anybody disagrees or has any questions, and then if we have questions or disagreements, we'll deal with them, and if we don't,
Or even just discussion.
breeze through
Yes,
anything
okay.
that's there's consensus or discussion. Any
Yep. Sounds good to me.
So with that in mind, the first comment is that we should add more language regarding beautification. This was the comment by, oh my gosh,
Martha Ramsey.
Martha Ramsey. Naturally, I forget the name of one of the few people who's probably watching this. But she suggested we adopt language to reflect the importance of beautification. She made a proposal at our first informational meeting, which we all agreed to. And I think
So-
this is really just a formality.
It looks really nice. I've read it. I'm sure everybody's read
Yeah,
it. and I'm-
you did a nice job on
can't
that.
imagine that everybody would
Martha
have a
submitted
problem.
Yeah.
Did she?
Yeah. This is
She did a
straight
nice job on
from
it.
straight from the kitchen.
Yeah. Is it important to actually, I'm just questioning a little procedure here so we don't get bogged down again. Do we need to know on the background who actually submitted all these, or can we just go
No.
through? I don't think, I mean, that's nice detail, James, but
Oh yeah. No.
I just want us to.
I'll go
I'm assuming
faster.
we've all read this so that we can just.
We can
Sure.
rush it. I mean, it's good to know who did so that we can thank them, but I mean, or not.
Who
But
we wanna
also,
hang,
yeah,
huh?
rip through it. So
Okay.
once you've agreed to it, it's your language, basically.
Okay. So by the way, are we okay, guys? I didn't.
Number 1 is yes.
The next thing is the omission of the West Brattleboro Village Green from Table 10.1, and that has been added, which I think we're all okay with. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. The Village Master, I'm sorry, the West Brattleboro Village Green should be supported in the plan. The background is that no other capital project of this size has been explicitly supported, and they've added language to the transportation and land use chapters regarding the village green. Do we have any issues with that response?
No, it was well, and
Now, here it is in the
it's
second
here on the
pink
page. Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
yeah, and that was,
Okay.
I think that took the comments into consideration.
Yeah, it actually was added a couple of places. So
Yes.
you have that second page, which is one part of it. That's the transportation chapter. Then we talked about it in land use
Land
under
use.
the neighborhood center.
Yeah, I remember reading it a number of times and feeling like we hit it, or you hit it for us, and for the West Brattleboro people.
Okay,
Some of the
number
language is from Michael.
Yep.
number 4, economic development did not include mention of a healthcare chapter.
So, a healthcare,
Cluster.
Cluster. right.
I don't know why they're letting me read. So that was an oversight, and we added some text to include that healthcare is an occupational cluster. Anybody have any problems with that?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Incentive to construct accessory dwelling units, like a property tax break. This is not something that has been brought up in the course of our
Yeah.
development
I
of the
think-
plan.
I think in and of itself, the ability to have accessory dwellings so readily is the incentive, and we should just let it live.
Okay, so that
Yeah,
the recommendation, well, the strategy there is no action.
I agree.
Everybody's okay with that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
feel like it's covered well in whatever that program is that covers accessory dwellings.
Yep.
Okay. The opposition to the fluvial erosion hazard area, someone was opposed to that and said that the regulations in place are adequate. This is an issue the commission has dealt with in the past, and I think unsuccessfully. And following the tropical storm Irene, I believe it's important to address in the future. So the strategy is no action. Does anybody have a problem with that?
No, I think last year the commission was very well resolved to continue.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, one of the comments in our public hearing was that the fluvial erosion hazard area should not stop at the Creamery Bridge, and the same rules applied downtown. That is the way it was, but it was not entirely clear, so the language has been amended to clarify that. It's not actually a change of position. Anybody have any problems with the amended language?
no,
Okay. There was some commentary on whether or not the north-south axis was overly emphasized for economic development. The decision to focus there was based on an overall planning desire to encourage smart growth. And I think,
Yeah, I think the other thing that we shouldn't neglect was that it was also part of the hazard and flood idea
Mhm.
of, the western areas of the town being more vulnerable.
yes, and also that being a more rural area.
I think some of that concern might have come from somebody on the, I don't necessarily know if it was Michael per se, but some people from the West Brattleboro Association out there and feeling like we were kind of overlooking them. But I think in supporting the Village Green and that kind of as a, is it a neighborhood center or whatever, that sort of, I mean, that's where they want economic development there.
Okay, so
And I
we're-
think we've, I mean, I don't know, I feel like indirectly it's included, or maybe it's more directly that I just haven't seen, but I think,
Yeah, I think it's true.
No, I went over that at the information meeting that we held in West Brattleboro.
Yeah.
And then the rationale behind, rather than approaching it from things we are doing in West Brattleboro to land use and other changes that we are recommending sprinkled throughout the town plan.
okay, so we're content taking no action, folks?
Yes.
Okay. Including a reference to the West Brattleboro master plan. The decision, I think, is not to do so because to incorporate them by reference would be fairly awkward. And they were done, that happened last time because they were amendments, but this is a whole new rewrite. And so there's been, we don't want to take action on that. Anybody disagree?
I don't, but I think it's mentioned somewhere, though, didn't you, that we wanted to, I thought I read when I was reading, and I'm trying to find, I don't think I made a note to it, but there's reference to including pieces of Putney Road and land use, like, again, with the accessory roads development, you know, and Putney Road.
That second page, page 73, the one that we passed, it does refer to the Putney Road Master Plan, and it does refer to the West Brattleboro Master Plan and the projects that came out of it.
Yeah.
So
I think
we've mentioned them, and they're on the shelf.
the land use changes that are proposed are for the town as a whole, and they include, you know, the interesting points from each of those
Right.
plans.
Right. I mean, one could even argue that the the visioning component of the West Brattleboro Master Plan was something that was pursued by Roger Hawke when he did the work on all the commercial districts. And so both in terms of methodology and conclusions that have been reached as part of the process with this plan, they
Yeah,
certainly...
because that was the point of Hawke's
Right. They certainly
exercise too.
built on the work that was done as part of the West Brattleboro Master Plan.
So are we fine with no action?
I am. I'd just
I
like
am.
to see if, Michael being here, I mean, you brought some of this up at some meeting, and I'm wondering if you're fine with how it's been included in the little ways that it has. If you,
Can I speak? Is this
Sure.
a comment?
I mean, I hate to hold us up here. but-
Actually...
Or do you not want to do that?
Yeah, it's okay, but we were going to
Close the-
just sort of push on.
Yeah, all right, sorry. But go.
Okay, so we're all okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. There was a suggestion that we add wording to district heating in the energy chapter to reflect the benefit to the town. We noted that there's a reference to past BTU efforts, but that we don't want the plan to support specific projects rather than others. And so we...
Yeah, I don't really think that that's our responsibility in the town plan.
So the strategy is to not take
Yeah.
action on that.
And even when TPAC met, I mean, they didn't want very specific projects either. They
Right.
wanted it to be, because projects could change,
Right.
you know? I mean, it could be something that's being explored now, and in 2 years, something else is being explored. And if we have if we're very specific in that way, we're going to sort of shoot ourselves in the foot.
Okay, so everybody's okay with no action?
Yep.
Okay. Emphasis on our historic resources added to our economic, social, cultural, and physical welfare. It had not been considered, but there have been some revisions to the historic and scenic resources chapter. Does anybody have any issue with the revisions?
I've reviewed them and they seem fine to me.
Seem fine to
Yeah.
Liz.
I really like the additions. I mean, I think the historical resources chapter has really been expanded, and I think whoever sent that letter from the Historic Society,
Barbara George.
yeah, I think that was very good. And I mean, from my looking back, I don't even think I don't know if we contacted them at all. I don't feel like they were part of it.
They did know.
Then, yeah.
They knew, but
They had
been contacted.
they had been contacted.
yeah, but to me, in my framework, that, you know, there was no response there, or that not, and I'm glad that all this.
Yep.
It's honestly not a chapter. Like, we touched the scenic part, but we really didn't do much on the historic.
Yeah.
It was a lot
So,
from the
yeah.
last plan.
And
so.
she really brought a lot of good points.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad that she provided the input
Yeah, me
just
too.
at the last minute.
That's really what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Okay, so we're all okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Good. Now we just got to bring back the covered bridge. The town plan should prioritize the creation of an historic resources inventory so the information can be used to plan for the wise use of the community's resources. This was not considered because it wasn't identified in the public process or interviews with the department. Are we content with taking no action?
Yes, I mean, one of
Can
the
we
actions,
look at all, I mean, if anyone has any specific comments, great, but can we look at all these historic comments as a whole?
yes. The only thing that,
You mean you want to go through more than one
Yeah.
at once?
Yeah.
we'll still go one at a time, but there are
Well,
a
it's
lot of
just,
them.
it seems like they're all of a set, and if
Yeah.
we've looked at this group and we read the memo last time, then we could say, is everybody okay with the changes to this section of the master plan? And
Okay, well, let me ask it this way. Are people content with going through number 20 and adopting the either suggestions for no action or minor changes, reflecting changes to, reflecting some amendment to
Where are
others?
you? Number 12 still?
Number 12 through
12 through 20.
20.
I have individual comments, so I don't want to do them as a whole. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's all right. Are we
Not big concerns, but just a couple questions.
Are we okay on 12 at least?
I am, only because she says hers is a prioritization on a historic resources inventory, but we already have that as an action, so I don't necessarily see that it has to be priority. It's already one of the actions that's being addressed, and so I
Well,
think,
that's interesting because the way the action is, I mean, we get an inventory, we maintain the state and national register. That we have a copy in the office. So we're kind of a repository for that information. And her point was that that's not comprehensive. There's lots of other historic resources, just because they're not on the national register. doesn't
Yeah,
mean
okay.
that
so
we couldn't
she's
do an
asking
inventory.
for like a house-by-house analysis of every property, which is
Neighborhood or-
extraordinarily costly and time-consuming.
well, yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's asking for something different than
Right. And
Then
to-
what that
what the
action,
intent.
And to be fair, I think if you were to ask preservation experts at the general level, does the downtown or other particular neighbourhoods of Brattleboro rise to the level of interest where you would justify doing a structure by structure inventory? The answer would
Right.
be no.
yeah.
Right.
Right?
Truth
this is
hurts,
not-
huh?
This is not Salem, Massachusetts, with which is intact. and
Yeah.
everything, so.
I think that, I think the plan was and has revised to be stronger to just strengthen the goal of maintaining the preserved structures.
Yeah, and I think you get that in the section you added under historic
Yep.
preservation. I think it covers it there.
Okay, so 12, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
13, add an action that would support expansion of the National Register Downtown District to include side streets, making tax credit projects easier for those business owners. We added an action step to do just that.
Yep.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Boys and girls Club's really historic.
The list and description of downtown district buildings in the text is unnecessary and out of proportion with other important resources. We said, okay, we'll remove the bulleted list of buildings.
Yep.
Anybody have a problem with the list of buildings being removed?
No, that's fine. I
Okay.
just sort of thought that was, we all got it, we laughed.
15, consider adding a narrative about properties that have been rehabilitated by developers and property owners that got tax credits and other economic benefits. This has prompted a revision in language. Does anybody have any comments on it?
Well,
No, it was done really, I commented already, it was done really well
it's
in
handled well.
the introduction and under historic preservation.
Okay, everybody's good. That's you too, right?
Prioritize it.
Prioritize historic
You had
building.
me at 12 to 20.
I'm just making sure. Oh, that's right. Prioritize historic building and other related sections of the plan. That's not been considered, and we won't take any action on it unless any of you disagree.
No, it's fine.
Okay. The SN/NR list in Appendix C is incomplete. It is now complete.
Yes.
I assume we're all okay with its completion.
Sure.
Policy 9.3 had a lack of action steps with the encourage the rescue of historic properties, and it now has an action step, which is in the table. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Good. Geez, we're moving along, huh? The map of designated and possible historic resources understates the potential area that is historic. Basically, we don't have any other map. Is that the story?
It's not what they call a regulatory map. It's
Mhm.
not a required map to be included in the town plan. So we could improve upon that map at our will, and it wouldn't have any impact on the town plan.
Okay.
And the town plan has no impact on the map.
So,
Has the commenter marked on the plan what they would consider the broader range?
No.
No.
Oh, interesting.
But I think it goes to that, well, if you, it's more than just the state register and national register, and that's pretty much what that map showed, the districts, and wasn't even up to date with the register listings. So.
Right.
Because it
goes
seems
to our
like
other
it would
point.
be easy for the mapper to just go,
Yes.
That one
like
might also
Charlie
be-
Brown's Christmas tree.
okay, so
We'll recommend
Broader
that.
area.
Right.
no action here, no problem?
Yeah, just smudging
No
of the
problem.
boundaries.
Yep, that's
All right.
okay.
Okay. Creating a local downtown historic district might be time-consuming and frustrating, as design districts are not always welcome.
I didn't get what, I mean, people are chuckling. I just didn't get where that comment came from at all.
Well, so a lot of times if you have a local historic district, you'll set up some sort of review board that would go over architectural designs before it would go to the DRB.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the only way that you can do it. You can choose not to have it and let the DRB do that review. But some people don't like to have to get a permit to,
Oh.
if you're going to do a demolition delay ordinance or something like that. It can be controversial.
Well, this all came about because I think the board has a great interest in maintaining the buildings like the ones around the
The
common.
Carmen that we talked about, yeah.
And keeping
Yes.
their historic integrity. So I don't understand comment 20 because it seems to be refuting all the other things that were said. And I'm comfortable with what we've said in the plan about, having a broader district to provide the type of control of the structures that we want.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just, that comment threw me again. I guess I must have missed it when I read her letter because
Yeah.
just like, it wasn't consistent with all the other things that they were asking for.
It's a little bit anomalous. It's just.
Yeah, but I can see again, it's that thing about,
But I'm good with no action.
I am too.
Okay. You guys are as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
The next is a sort of big picture thing, which is that the goals in the plan should be prioritized, and that's not been considered. And if any of you thinks we should take that action, speak now. But I think we didn't want to do that. So
That memo that was prepared to kind of preface the master plan, that outlines the priorities, don't you think?
Yes.
That's the purpose of that memo, is it not?
Well,
Or the
it responds.
impact?
It responds to what the statute regards as being the key items the plan has to hit on. And so, if you were making good progress on implementing those things and those things only, then it would be adequate for the state and for the Regional Planning Commission to say, yes, you're making adequate progress. So to that extent, yeah. So that's okay.
You're talking about the report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the memo. And I just think the report has casts such a wide net
Yeah.
that it's not easily
No.
prioritable.
No, that would be a monstrous undertaking and
I don't think so.
not
That'd be another,
useful.
Over that.
that'd be another 2 years, all right?
Yes, that's right.
All right.
We agree.
Okay, so no action on that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. The next is also a big picture one, that goals should be more measurable.
Now, I'm saying measurable, obtainable.
Tell.
What do you mean by that? I mean,
Well, I think it means like in the
it's
next
more of a
5
label.
years we should build X rather than what we're saying, which is in the next 5 years we should try to sort of accomplish this general goal.
aspirational for the
Putting more
actions that are
targets
meant
on
to be
it.
specific.
Yeah, this was when I made that long speech that I'm
Right.
sure
Right.
Yes.
Remember, yeah, trying to get an idea.
Christie
Yeah.
could have shot me, but
Measurable.
yeah. So does anybody have any problem with leaving the goals the way they are?
No, I think they're fine.
No.
And I think we have TPAG support on that too.
Yeah.
So 23, much more specific. Goal F should include a qualifier after the sentence, such as by maximizing opportunities to increase funding. The wording was changed. Does anybody
Somewhere.
have a problem with the changed wording?
Where was it? Oh, I see, right here,
Where it was changed to?
under economic
I
development.
think they basically did that, right?
F?
Yeah, it was changed from increased funding of community development organizations,
Which
period,
was-
to increase the community's commitment to community development using available grant opportunities and town-controlled funds.
Oh, okay. This
Just really a
augment-
refinement.
Oh, so you augmented out the
Yeah.
funding community, okay.
Yeah,
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
yes.
Okay. Would like a place for agriculture and arts in the economic development policies. We discussed it, and there's a cross-reference, but we don't want to take any action. Does anybody have any problem with that?
No, and didn't we also acknowledge those as clusters?
Yes.
I
Both
mean,
of them are identified
yeah,
as clusters in
yeah.
economic
Right.
development.
Yeah, we already did that.
Agriculture has its own chapter, and arguably arts and culture is its own chapter as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So no action, no problem,
No action.
right?
I think it's sufficient the way it's written.
Okay. There was a comment that the word agribusiness, which the Planning Commission had used as a general term, had a negative connotation, and we should change it to something other than what it was. The strategy is not to consider that because it's used in the U.S. Economic Development Agency's classification, the same thing, and we ought to stay standardized.
Well,
And-
and we've cited that, and
Right.
so there is a direct reference to what the USCDA called it.
I understand, though, where the comment is coming from, and today, more and more, people look at agribusiness more as big corporate agriculture, corporate forestry, I mean, all of that.
Yep.
And so I do understand that, and even footnoting it to the U.S. Economic and Development Agency. I mean, if you look at the Farm Bill, the Farm Bill per se supports agribusiness and not mostly small farmers. It's only just beginning to turn around to that.
Right.
So I see as the official U.S. whatever stand on all that still supports corporate agriculture, and I think our town is really moving away from that. My question would be, how many times did we use that word agribusiness in
Just
there?
the once, and it refers precisely to the cluster that has the label agribusiness and forest industries or whatever it is, because that's the label that the U.S. government uses when they collect that data.
When they collect the data.
So we don't have, it's not, the terminology in the chapter is not saying we should refer to this new cluster as the agribusiness cluster. We can call it Old McDonald's Farm Cluster if you
Yeah,
want. But the justification for and the ability to identify the cluster uses a category of data that is called agribusiness and forest industries. And so, and then for further irony, like most of the United States, in this town and this county, because there are a couple of very, very large-scale forestry producers, the data is completely blanked out for confidentiality reasons. Which,
that's right, I remember
which
you
then
talking about
goes to
that.
illustrate precisely the point that actually we're not that far from big corporate forestry and agriculture, but there's no getting around calling it what it is. In this, I mean, if we were to call it something else, people are not going to find the data source very easily. That's the whole point. That's why it's called what it's called in the chapter.
My daughter would love the old McDonald's Farm District, though.
I think we should go for that. Once we've accepted that we've got a cluster.
Right.
Yeah.
In the footnote, could it just,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to take a lot of action on this, but should the footnote be somehow, in your explanation of that, I understand it better, that this is for collecting, that term is used for collecting data, and I don't know where the footnote is particularly, but could that just be acknowledged in there somewhere that
We could put a second footnote on it.
Or we could just expand the footnote.
Yeah.
Agribusiness is the term employed by the
U.S.
Economic Development
Right, yeah.
Agency.
That
Right. How's
state
that?
your desire?
Yeah, I mean, you say that under background, and I guess
Yep.
and just could you say for data collecting
Right.
purposes, could you just add that?
Yep.
Is
That's
everybody
fine.
okay with that?
Yep.
That
Okay.
just, for me, that just clarifies it, and I think that that person who made the comment would, and other people who fall in that bracket would be,
Understand it more.
understand, yeah.
Okay. So next we move to...
Thanks for that.
Yep.
Oh,
Good.
sorry. Next, we move to the economic impact study for buildings over 65,000 square feet. The recommendation in the plan is to vacate that, and someone said we should keep it. We have the recommendation from a study and believe we should stick by it. Does anybody have any problem with that?
No.
No.
No?
Okay. Okay. The future land use map should be more dynamic with bright colors. It is difficult to see what is going on.
I disagree.
There's pinkish or purple was,
I disagree quite
What
strongly.
they asked for. For the more dense
She just
area.
took off pink glasses. I just wanted to make that point, okay?
3D,
Well,
Okay.
there's a standard methodology for land use
Absolutely.
mapping, and it should be adhered to.
So, do you have a problem with this, or are you joking around? I can't tell.
Yeah, I
Serious.
can't tell
I'm
either.
serious.
serious.
I
So you
just
don't want it?
smile when I'm
Say it.
serious.
I'm
that's
just
all.
making
So you don't
sure.
want a different, you don't want that
I
action?
want to use the standard land use methodology for mapping that the whole country employs, and I want it kept that way.
Well, if Liz says we
And-
should do it, I think we should probably do
I
it.
like the way you think.
Yeah.
Liz
Does
said-
everybody else think that's okay?
I agree.
Who dares to contradict this
Far
statement?
be it.
Not me.
Okay, all right.
Is
So
that
it's the
okay with you, Karen?
yeah, that's all right. I like color
Standardized
myself,
US.
but
I put my pink glasses back on.
I noticed.
You guys actually both have like pink and purple.
We do, we do. That's- So what's the standard again? What's it called?
Pink.
Oh, there's a
Standard is
whole,
pinkish.
there's a whole litany of standard patterns and colors for land use.
Maybe there'll be a
Symbols.
conspiracy theory down the road. But okay, next. Clarifications are needed when mentioning flood hazard and flood zoning.
So, all right.
This
so-
has been like a constant thing as we've gone through flood discussions, and it's really difficult, I think, to make it clear.
I
Without-
looked at the sections, and I mean, I know that I'm fluent in it, but I
But I
wasn't
mean, there's
really
really no
sure
other
how
way
I
to.
could.
There's no other way to do it.
Well, you know, it reminds me of the definition of a wetland that is really most apt. It's when the lawyers stop walking.
Anywho,
29.
yeah, 28. So I think that it's pretty impossible
Yeah.
to avoid it being a little confusing,
Yeah.
but I'm sure staff tried. Anyway, no action, okay?
How many meetings back then did we take to get which term was where and how, and man, forget it.
I think the plan does a fairly good job of keeping it straight, actually.
Very well.
Okay.
All right.
Number 29, we're on the last page
Ooh,
now.
we're on a roll.
Wow.
So now we're getting to kind of some serious stuff. There was concern, especially